Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Train's self-titled debut album from 1998. It also released independently in 1996, but I'm going based off of the 1998 release. So it's pretty good for a debut, but not really great overall. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 7 out of 13, so just one over half. This album is decent. It's got some interesting stuff on it, but it's also pretty boring at times. A lot of the songs are the sort of the same late 90s alternative country rock sound, which is pretty interesting overall, but it doesn't have the breadth to do a whole album out of it, in my opinion. There's pretty much no sense of flow here, although the album does do a decent job of balancing slower tracks and faster ones. The tone and sound of the album are really great. It's surprisingly evocative considering the actual music and lyrics aren't really anything special. The back half is generally better than the front half, although the inclusion of Meet Virginia on the front half kind of makes up for it, since that song pretty easily blows all the others out of the water. There were no singles released before the album, and Meet Virginia is the only really big hit here and the only one you may recognize from the radio. My favorite song here, other than, the one that's clearly much better than the rest, Meet Virginia, is probably Train, the self-titled track on their self-titled debut album. Although Idaho and Free were also pretty decent, I would say. There's probably a good half of a good album in here, and then the other half just sounds the same as that and is very boring. So it doesn't go very well overall. I rank this 9th out of Train's 11 albums, so basically at the bottom. The only two albums I rank below this one are a Christmas album, Christmas in Tahoe, and For Me, It's You. For Me, It's You is definitely their worst main album. This one is more not great simply because it's really inexperienced and they don't have any sort of different sounds going on. I could maybe put this a step higher since Train does Led Zeppelin 2 as a cover album and doesn't really count the same. But their debut is definitely not better than anything else in their catalog. They got better over time. It just doesn't have as many good tracks or as flow as well as any of their other stuff. And really, the main thing is that they got significantly better over time. Like, this album is decent for a debut, but this is what we want to see. We want to see them get significantly better, which they did. This album isn't my favorite from 1998. That goes to Walking into Clarksdale by Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, two former members of Led Zeppelin, which is simply a much more experienced album with more good tracks, although it's a close margin here. Both of them are kind of in a similar style and kind of have the same problem of being all in one style, so they don't have good musical diversity. But I think Walking into Clarksdale is just more experienced. They've got more stuff going on there. Next up is Blondie's 2003 album, The Curse of Blondie, with a cover that looks straight out of The Lord of the Rings. I don't know if this one will sound good, but this cover is probably one of the worst album covers of all time, I would say, in my opinion. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.